Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media, and today, finally, Thomas, we're going to be doing some Trump tweets, and I have them for April 23rd and 24th.
Well, that's good, Betsy, because there's no drops happening anywhere else except T-drops, and I'm telling you right now that we are barely having to read between the lines anymore because he gets to speak the truth because the Mueller witch hunt is over. Everything in D.C. had to go through Robert Mueller. Not anymore, Bob.
Okay, the first one is a very exciting tweet. Now, if you want to follow the tweets or you want to see in the pictures or the videos referred to, then go into the link that's in the description box and it'll take you every place you need to go. Okay, the first one is a meeting he had with Jack from Twitter. Lots of subjects discussed regarding their platform and the world of social media in general. Look forward to keeping an open dialogue.
That one takes a little bit of reading between the lines.
Well, you have to go in and see the picture because Jack does not look like he's very comfortable sitting there in front of Papa Trump's desk.
No, and I was just going to point out that, Betsy, you are right. Take a look at those picture of the people gathered around his desk, including Jack, and then look that what is he reading to them? Why is he reading them anything? When have you ever seen Trump gather people around and then he reads them something? He's reading them the riot act. Here's what he told them. He said, "You're going to stop, as of today, shadow banning me and every other conservative. You're going to stop the deplatforming."
He needs to stop shadow banning everybody, not just conservatives.
That's what
everybody. Well, you said stop shadow banning conservatives. And I just want to point out, he is either a platform or a publisher. He can't have it both ways.
Well, all right then. And particularly because he's saying, we know that good old Jack and his gang shadow bans Trump himself. Plus the glitches. I've never once, ever once, get to Trump's tweets without a glitch. Okay? So there's glitches keeping you from getting there. And then he mentioned, of course, the massive attacks on the conservatives, particularly on his site, which he's talked about over and over and over. And then when they come and they testify, Jack and his gang, they lie to Congress, nothing but lies. They say they don't surveil, they don't do these things. No, they surveil. They're squelching free speech to the point that there is no more free speech, not on Twitter. Oh, no, not at all. And they're completely supporting the left. And they're trying to take down the right. And therefore, every single bit of that effort needs to be claimed as a campaign donation. And then he went into... and that's the reason Jack was not looking happy at this point. Monopolies, because Jack is a monopoly. And, oh, that's right, he gets government subsidies. So at any time, Trump can pull the plug on that. Oh, then he probably mentioned that Jack's entire platform was stolen.
Yeah, finally.
From Leader Technology. And IBM Eclipse Foundation stole it. We have all the proof. And that Nasty James Chandler, the thief, would be top on the list of pointing out who it was that did this. And so when it comes down to it, Trump then turned to them and said, and by the way, make sure to get George Soros off your platform. Get the Atlantic Council's Digital Forensic Research Laboratory out. You have, I'm giving you 72 hours, Jack. Now get out of my office.
Whew, well, I hope that happened. Now, the next one is about the stock market. Hit an all-time record high today, and they're actually talking impeachment. Will I ever be given credit for anything by the fake news media or radical liberal Dems? No collusion.
I think he knows the answer to that question. No, they're not going to. Here's the way it splits up with what he called the radical liberal Dems and their mainstream media outlets, which they are one and the same. There is no difference between the Democratic, the Democrats, the anarchist, fascist, socialist Democrats, and the mainstream media. No difference. So what's the mainstream media? 25% of them have come out and said, I'm going to play like we never said anything bad, and I'm going to go on acting like I knew all along everything was cool. That's what that 25% of them did. 50% of them now hate Mueller. And those are the same exact group that loved Mueller before the report was given out. And they're the ones who are fighting about what type of impeachment do we want? Though, in fact, there's no crime, so there can't be an impeachment. That's the reason even Pelosi, the demon from demon spawn from hell herself, said that she's not going to go with impeachment. Because why? It won't work. They've already tried twice, and it was a pathetic, resounding defeat. And then 25% of the mainstream media and the Democrats are absolutely rabid dogs foaming at the mouth. And they are now, of course, talking about Trump going to jail when he gets out of being the president, and they're still going to use the cases in Virginia and in New York to go after Trump, and here's what we're seeing. This is what we're really hearing. We're finding out that the radical liberal Dems are just like the radical Islamic terrorists. They are aggressors. They are warmongers. They are supported by Obama, and they love the Muslim Brotherhood. They are tribal in the way that they approach everything in their mentality. It actually goes backwards. It is not progressive, not in the least. Anarchy is not progression. You can't possibly call the anarchic left liberal Democrats in any way progressive because they aren't moving forward, not at all. They're going backwards to the lowest common denominator. So it's important to remember that they're going to completely continue to ignore anything good that Trump does and says until they no longer exist.
The next tweet, you'll want to drop in and see it. It's Rush Limbaugh, and he's talking to Martha McCallum, and Trump is giving him a call out. Thanks, Rush. And the video is interesting, but as I watched it, Rush Limbaugh is like, he's so far behind the truth news. I mean, I heard that or saw it somewhere that Rush was out golfing with Trump just recently. And I hope Trump said, look, Rush, Betsy and Thomas are beating the pants off of you. At least move up 3 months in your narrative and get with the program. Well, that's my imagination. But here you have Rush finally getting to where we are in the swamp. I mean, he certainly hasn't touched what's going on with the British portion of this overthrow. And Martha McCallum, and I liked her for a while, but she's just like sitting there in disbelief that any of this is happening. I guess that's what happens when your talking heads read avid ISIS management all the time. They really don't know anymore what truth is. And they certainly don't know what reporting is.
And if you don't want to be controversial and you want to keep your listening audience at high numbers, you don't get into a lot of these things. But now I think it's hysterical watching Rush Limbaugh. He talked so fast in that interview, he wouldn't let the interviewer actually speak. He talked right over the top of her 5 or 6 times.
Well, that's
why.
Rush.
He's so excited to know this stuff. He's woke. He's on fire for the first time. Of course, as you say, he's not hip to the fact that it's a British Privy Council spying maneuver that this was.
Not just spying, an overthrow. This is espionage at the highest degree. We've never seen espionage like this ever in the world. And you have a media that's silent.
The Second American Revolution ain't over yet, and we are fighting Queen Lizzie and the UK and the Privy Council, and we have to get them out of America. And that's only going to be done when the mechanisms that they've placed here over the last 200 years have been removed. And that would be the senior executive service, the political executive appointments of judges. No, they should all be elected. And if they don't do their job, they should not be elected. So what we are seeing here is that a system was created that is basically a continuation of the British monarchy, the Privy Council, and those the Mercers and all the monopolies that were created surrounding the Queen, who is absolutely immune to anything, and it is illegal to ask about the Queen's business in the United Kingdom. So you can't. So the next tweet actually gets into that, but what you're saying is so true. Rush is not quite woke enough. If he got woke to the reality, I would fear for poor Rush's heart. I think he'd get really a little too overexcited, because look how excited he is just catching up to the outer trim of the garment of crime, spying, and treason that was part of this conspiracy against Trump.
Well, it looks like Donald Trump is ready to start waking up people with the next tweet. And it is a quote from OANN. Quote, former CIA analyst Larry Johnson accuses United Kingdom intelligence of helping Obama administration spy on the 2016 Trump presidential campaign. Wow, says Trump. It is now just a question of time before the truth comes out. And when it does, it will be a beauty.
Now, he knows the truth. He's already seen the content of the FISA court warrants in an unredacted form. And so he already knows that the British are part of this. And he's just being very coy with his response here, because what he's saying is that, isn't it great that Larry Johnson, well, fine, Larry Johnson, that's nice that you came out with this, but we came out with intelligence reports with the evidence that shows that what you're saying is true, and exactly who those people are and when they did it, and who they did it with, and under what auspices and what guise and what company and what fake corporations that they created to do all of these things. So, yes, Mr. Trump is aware, fully aware, but he knows that all of us, the majority of people who don't listen to Aim for Truth and read Americans for Innovation and all that stuff, well, then they are going to be a little bit shocked by this, and so Trump is waking them up gently. But the reality is that, Larry Johnson, you need to mention Lord Malik Brown, Jeffrey Patty. You need to mention the Queen's Privy Council and the Queen herself, who worked together with Obama directly and sent over Robert Hannigan to work with the CIA, sent over Alexander Downer, who was the person who reported all of this. Of course, there was Andrew Wood.
And don't forget Richard Dearlove. He's thick and thin in all of this.
Richard Dearlove, Allison Saunders, Sambai, Steele, Halpern, Mifsud. There's so many, I can't even get into them. But hello, the tip of the iceberg is being shown here. They're scratching the surface. They need to get deeper. And Trump needs to understand that if he's going to go to England, they're going to try to kill him.
But the timing of this tweet is very important, Thomas, because this tweet comes after they have accepted the invitation to go to see the Queen, and after we've posted everywhere that this could be a very dangerous situation.
And he's saying that the truth will come out. He already knows the truth. Well, the truth is going to say that these criminals that he's going to go visit in a state visit, well, it's not totally a state visit. It's a celebration of D-Day, and there's a lot of other countries coming, and he's going to be there, and it's a big deal. And so it would be a snub not to go. But the reality is, be careful, Mr. President, just like last time we told you. They would mess with your schedule. They'd mess with where you slept. They would mess with everything, and they did. And there were a couple attempts to literally fly things over your head, which could have had a bomb on it. And I noticed that you did not drink or eat anything they offered you last time. Please do the same next time. The British are not your friend. They have already stated that if they cannot stop you, globalism is ended. And remember, globalism is the number one thing that the monarchy of the United Kingdom wants to support.
They've been working on this since the days of Cecil Rhodes and Alfred Milner, and it was a 200-year plan to take over the world. Literally, it's on paper, and they've been rolling this out over the years. They're a little over 100 years in their plans. They didn't expect a Donald Trump. This was supposed to be Hillary with the final smackdown and ruining America, but Trump comes in. So Trump is that person who stands between them and them losing trillions and trillions in wealth and in power. And think about their pedophilia networks. I mean, there is so much here. Mr. Trump, please be careful.
He's the great disruptor, and they will do anything to stop him.
The next tweet. The American people deserve to know who is in this country. Yesterday, the Supreme Court took up the census censorship question, a really big deal. Make America great again.
Yeah, well, my opinion on that is not nice. It's not nice at all. First off, we've been lying on the census for a long time. And that anyone could come up with the idea that you can lie on the next census and not tell how many illegal aliens you have in your household, or that they are in your household, or that you yourself are an illegal alien, is just insane. I say as we do the census, we wrap up and pull together the 44 million illegal aliens and send them back to where they came from and let them try to re-enter legally and make sure that there's a strike against them for coming in illegally. Because what we know about America is so wrong in terms of the Electoral College, in terms of the numbers, in terms of gerrymandering the different districts, which is going on at a rapid-fire rate with Obama and Eric Holder and Valerie Jarrett and their whole group, the OFA. So, hello? Yeah, we need to know the truth because we now know there's 22 documented illegal aliens, 22 million in this country, but the reality is there's probably 44 or more.
Well, then can the census, if the census taker has to go to somebody's door, can they go with somebody in a big ice shirt? That might solve the problem too.
I think they need to have a big ice van behind them, and as they go door to door, if you have an illegal alien in your house, you put them in the van and you take them back to where they came from, because you want to know what? Every one of them could be committing the crimes of remittance. Remittance of money they made under the table, no taxes, sent out of this country with no taxes back to their country. $33 billion to Mexico alone last year. Last year, the Northern Triangle got over $50 billion. That would be the people who are attacking us right now from El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. And what do? We just keep giving them more money. And when we tried to not give them that money, the Pelosi in the House tried to stand up against Trump and say, no, because we also give them tens of billions of dollars in USAID.
And we talked about that at length in the video from yesterday. I'll put that link in the description box for those of you who missed it, because the big surprise here is that the Federal Reserve gets a cut on this. The Federal Reserve is actually making money on this whole illegal immigration operation. Okay, now we're going to go back to the invasion. A very big caravan of over 20,000 people started up through Mexico. It has been reduced in size by Mexico, but it's still coming. Mexico must apprehend the remainder or will be forced to close that section of the border and call up the military. The coyotes and cartels have weapons.
Those weapons that the coyotes and cartels have were given to them by Eric Holder and Fast and Furious, military-grade weapons still being used to kill Americans, kill lots of Mexicans, and kill lots of people who are being human trafficked by these cartels. Let's not forget, people forget the concept that the cartels don't just bring drugs across the border. They're bringing humans. They're human traffickers. And the drugs coming across the border right now, unprecedented in human history, and certainly in U.S. history, because why? They know that the border is going to be closed by Trump. And that's why Mexico is partially helping now. There's no longer buses and trucks and all the food and water available for these invaders coming through Mexico, supplied by Mexico, supplied by who? Supposed Christian organizations here in America. No, it's Soros, it's Venezuela, it's Russia, it's communism, it's China. It is through Venezuela that the money was given to the Northern Triangle countries to literally have on television. Now we've seen this and heard this again and again and again from people who were convinced, they were practically brainwashed. Get in the next migration, they call it. It's not a migration, it's an invasion. And you will be given water, food, everything you want. Bring a child with you. Bring no This is on the television in these three countries that we give $50 billion in aid to, in remittances to, and I'm not exactly certain how much. I think it's like $37 billion between the three of them that we give direct aid to, okay? So basically, we are propping those countries up. They wouldn't exist without us, and they are attacking us because they're using communist propaganda from Russia, from China, from Venezuela, from Cuba, as well as Al Jazeera and ISIS and Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah and Hamas are all in South America, coming through Central America as we speak. This is a war. I've said it again and again and again. We must declare war on Mexico now, because Trump almost declared economic war on them by saying he's just going to close the whole dadgum border down. What happened? They became somewhat cooperative. So this group that's coming up, there's two groups before that are dissipating. Why? Because the Mexican government is dissipating them, as they should. Should have never got through their border. And they are not being nice to them. They're not offering all the things they offered in the first invasion groups. Why? Because the Soros money isn't there. He got caught. A lot of these non-government organizations got caught. So the money's not there anymore. And so Mexico doesn't want anything to do with it. Mexico is being paid off. But remember, Mexico is run by drug cartels. The president of Mexico right now was put there by drug cartels. And we should be at war with those drug
Well,
cartels.
I know you're pointing this out about Mexico, but the United States has been run by the mob for president after president after president. And Hillary, she was going to be her daddy's girl, and she was going to be the next mob boss. So really, you have criminality in the globe like you have never seen it. Well, because we've been blind to it. The mainstream media hasn't done any reporting of any quality in the last 30 years. And so now we find ourselves in the predicament of having to report this so fast we can't even say it fast enough as it unfolds. And then we go into the next tweet, which makes your point. Mexico's soldiers recently pulled guns on our National Guard soldiers, probably as a diversionary tactic for drug smugglers on the border. Better not happen again. We are now sending armed soldiers to the border. Mexico is not doing enough in apprehending and returning.
Don't need to read between the lines there. That is a president saying, you have crossed the line. You took weapons from our National Guard on U.S. property. Hello? Mexican soldiers who we know most of the time are paid off by the cartel. Our National Guard soldiers could have been killed by these people. It's very, very common. Had they been across the border, the deaths on the border every single day now. I used to say it's every week. No. Every single day. More deaths, more human trafficking, more drugs, more the horrible stuff that war brings. And we need to remember that there was a war on our southern border, and it doesn't matter what Mexico thinks. We don't need Mexico. Trump has already said we don't need the new agreement, the new trade agreement. We can go back to pre-NAFTA, where there will be no trade deal, no tariffs either way, and finally have free trade. When that happens, Mexico will collapse. Mexico will be on its knees and will be doing everything they can to support the United States of America, instead of right now doing every single thing they can to attack us, bring us down, rip us off, and vampirize us.
The Mueller report, despite being written by angry Democrats and Trump haters and with unlimited money behind it, $35 million, didn't lay a glove on me. I did nothing wrong. If the partisan Dems ever tried to impeach, I would first head to the Supreme Court. May I say something first? That's a threat to the Supreme Court, because when he goes to the Supreme Court, he's going to ask for Miss Ruth Ginsburg. Where's Ruth? Has anybody seen Ruth? There have been no public sightings of Ruth.
I want to know if she has mental competency. I don't even care if she's alive or dead. Is that really her, first off, as you've pointed out so many times? And if it is or isn't, I don't care.
There has been no public sighting of her. You get news articles like the Daily Caller had an article there, and what they're trying to do is kind of head fake us, because they're using hearsay testimony to kind of imply that she's alive. No, it's either a direct quote and a reporter is there to attest that he got the quote from the actual person, or we need to see a video and a picture of her in a situation that shows that she's currently alive today. And I'm not talking about a fake or a stand-in. Where is Ruth Ginsburg? But let's get back to this tweet. He's going to go to the Supreme Court with this.
Yes. And the reason is because there's already, this is the tip of the iceberg, 35 million. No. 35 million was only that was to pay Mueller and the 4 people who came out of WilmerHale. All the people working for the government are not part of that 35 million. So, Trump had already quoted before, 40 million. No. It is at least, at the minimum, it has to be another 50 million on the government side. So, and remember, this is the 8th investigation. So, if we, not even counting the time and the effort, let's just count the money spent for the first reports. The first report was over $100 million. Okay, then there were 2 more intelligence committee reports, which we saw. Then there was another one, and then there was the Senate and the House, and then there was, of course, the Mueller investigation and all that went on up to that, which was a conspiracy, which we're not counting that money at all. Untold amounts of people. We know that, I can quote, literally $1.4 million was paid to Stephen Halper, the guy who helped set up Christopher Steele. $1.4 million to the Walrus alone.
But no. Thomas, with all of this, look at all of this to try to overthrow his presidency. You don't think that the Brits and the Privy Council and MI6 aren't going to try to do harm to him when he visits over there?
He is invulnerable to their attacks because he's innocent. One of the only people to ever enter politics who was innocent and didn't have dirt. Okay? So, as he says, they can't lay a glove on him. He did nothing wrong. We've said this from the beginning. Oh, I didn't count the 2 FBI investigations, the one on his father and the one on him. So if you roll all this together, you're talking, I'm estimating, with the conclave's help, $250 million minimum was spent trying to find if a single thing Trump ever did could be considered illegal. And no, he is Mr. Clean. He is the most vetted president in human history, the most vetted politician in human history. No crime, no corruption. And yes, he once said...
no, let's not go there. Okay.
One thing that was considered improper when it was a joke. And that's it, folks.
And frankly, we want a president that wants to grab that, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And the final one is, are there no high crimes and misdemeanors? There are no crimes by me at all. All of the crimes were committed by Crooked Hillary, the Dems, the DNC, and dirty cops, and we caught them in the act. We waited for Mueller and won. So now the Dems look to Congress as the last hope. And I would say, no, they're going to start looking for help from the Brits. Because these American SES and Crown agents, they were unable to complete the mission.
With all of those people attacking him, and we've shown more people attacking him than anybody else, 2 to 3 times the amount of people that they admit were attacking him were actually attacking him. So what will really happen? He will take this to the Supreme Court if they try impeachment because there's no crime. The Congress cannot get away with having impeachment proceedings without a crime, or as he says, high crimes and misdemeanors. There is no crime. He can simply use the Mueller investigation to prove that. He can use the 3 intelligence community investigations to do it, as well as the hidden one, as well as the Senate, as well as the House. Okay? And then if they want to get into it, they better be careful. Because if they start to try, as he points out here, what's going to come out? No crimes that he committed are going to come out. They've tried to look for anything there was, and there was nothing. What will come out if they try impeachment? The Dems will go down. The DNC. The dirty cops will go down.
And also, it'll be outed that Ruth Ginsburg is not a functioning Supreme Court justice because the Dems have to be very concerned. Trump says right here he's going to go to the Supreme Court. That'll blow the cover of what they're doing and what they're hiding about Ruth.
And also, he doesn't have to let anyone. Matter of fact, I think I heard him say that he's not going to cooperate with these ridiculous, with Nadler, basically, Jerry Nadler and the Judiciary Committee out of the House. Why? Because it's already happened too many times. And so when Dan McGahn has been requested to come, the number one person quoted during inside of the Mueller report was Trump's lawyer, who they used as a setup to go after Michael Flynn, and then they harassed him and they ruined his life and they bankrupted him, and now they want to continue. They want to do more. He needs to say no. And Trump was basically saying, I cooperated with them completely. I'm not going to cooperate anymore. I'm going to fight. I'll take this to the Supreme Court, and none of my people need to cooperate with you. So the 81 or 85 different subpoenas, which have many parts to them that were sent out by Jerry Nadler, are being mostly ignored, and that's what needs to happen. So we are now in a new age. We're in an age where Trump doesn't just have to speak between the lines. We're in an age where he can call it out for what it is. We're in an age where it no longer is a time when he has a cloud hanging over his head where people just keep accusing him of things. If anyone wants to say the word Trump and Russia in the same sentence now, they might as well put on a tinfoil hat.